Hey guys, City State Studios here again. I'm currently at the day off from work because I injured my foot the day before I recorded this. So I have more time to make this as well as other videos for the Story of Ghost documentary. And so with all that, this is part 2 of the Queen Iceberg. We're currently on the 4th tier of the iceberg, which starts off with this. American rock musician Billy Squier has had a long relationship with Queen. He opened for the band their last tour of North America with Freddie and John in 1982, and Freddie was a featured vocalist on the song Love is the Hero. However, another song, co-written by Billy and Freddie, almost featured him as well. The song, Lady with a Tenor Sax, originally was going to feature Freddie as a guest vocalist, but for unknown reasons, his vocals were not included in the final version of the song. The version with Freddie was eventually included on The Solo Collection, a compilation of Freddie's solo work, in 2000. This refers to the song Let Me Live off of Made in Heaven. Originally, the beginning vocals were different, as heard here.
Take another little piece of my heart now, baby. Take a piece of my heart. Take another little piece of my soul now, baby. Take a piece of my soul. Take another little piece of my life now, baby.
However, it was found that these vocals sound too similar to the Janis Joplin song mentioned in the title. As such, the song was quickly edited with new beginning vocals. However, radio promo singles in Mexico and the Netherlands contain the original take, and bootlegs of it have since surfaced. In 1983, Freddie and Michael Jackson recorded 3 songs together, and were planning to record more songs before issues regarding Freddie's cocaine use and Michael's insistence on bringing a llama to recording sessions led to them ending prematurely. These songs were Victory, State of Shock, and There Must Be More to Life Than This. State of Shock was eventually re-recorded with Mick Jagger and released in 1984, while Life in This was released on Queen Forever in 2014. Victory, on the other hand, was never released officially, but exists on bootlegs. The title of the song was later used for the Jacksons album of the same name in 1984, albeit without said song. At the Magic Tour show in Knebworth in 1986, a woman who attended the show unexpectedly went into labor and successfully gave birth to a child. However, this would not be the only odd event to happen at the show, as seen later in the iceberg. The Miracle was released in 1989, and was the first album to not be promoted with a tour due to Freddie's AIDS. However, there were allegedly discussions regarding the possibility of shows to promote the album. As seen in the thumbnail for this tier, shows in the Netherlands were talked of but ultimately shelved due to Freddie's health. Regardless of the lack of touring, the album was still a success, spawning songs like I Want It All, The Miracle, Scandal, and The Invisible Man. I Go Crazy was written by Brian and sung by Freddie, and dates back to 1981 before it was considered for the works. However, instead of being included in the album, it was released as the B-side to the single version of Radio Gaga. It's alleged that David Bowie also worked on the song in some form, as he did with the original version of Cool Cat off of Hot Space. However, nothing has surfaced as of yet. With that tier out of the way, we're now into the 5th tier of the Queen Iceberg. In March of 1974, Queen played the first of several shows at the Rainbow Theatre in London, with this show being for the Queen 2 tour, their first headlining tour of the UK. This concert was eventually released officially alongside the shows from the Sheer Heart Attack tour later in the year. However, it was almost released much earlier as the band's 4th album release. A live album was mixed and cut, but ultimately shelved by the band due to their desire to focus on studio output first. After the band's acrimonious split with Norman Sheffield and Trident Records before the sessions for A Night at the Opera began, the album made its way into the hands of bootleggers and was released as Sheet Keekers, being one of the first Queen bootlegs released. I believe this entry refers to the fact there's a very faintly heard "but" before the line "I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me" in the opera act section of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's almost impossible to hear unless you break the song down into its 24 individual tracks, and it's largely been forgotten about. The UK leg of the Queen 2 tour is infamous for having no circulating recordings aside from the March Rainbow show. However, a recording of Sterling 74 is known to exist. The reason this audience recording has not surfaced is because the tape is reportedly in terrible shape and needs to be baked before it can be transferred to a digital format. There have been no updates on the condition of the tape for a long time, and many fans fear that it will never see the light of day.
Ah, boy, here we go.
These guys. Oh boy. The royal family were a group of British superfans who followed Queen around the UK and parts of Western Europe throughout the 1970s. They taped almost all the shows they went to, but most of these tapes are not circulating. The reason? Conflict. Lots and lots of conflict. For a variety of reasons, some tapes were outright destroyed, such as Southampton 77 on the Races tour, while others were buried, never to be heard by anyone. The tapes that did come out often came with a variety of watermarks that decreased the quality of these tapes, which already were not in the best quality to begin with. The royal family is the reason most of the Crazy Tour is not circulating publicly, as there is a good chance almost every show in the tour was taped by them but has not seen the light of day. Crazy Tour shows from the royal family include Glasgow, First Newcastle, and Liverpool. Perhaps the most tampered with tape was of the third London show in 1978 on the News of the World tour. For years, the tape that circulated only consists of everything from Somebody to Love up to partway through the guitar solo. In 2018, a badly downgraded recording of Bohemian Rhapsody and the fast version of We Will Rock You emerged, both labeled as being from the second show in Stafford instead. However, it was found that Bohemian Rhapsody was in fact from another copy of the third London 78 tape. Eventually, a more complete tape came out that runs from Somebody to Love to the end of the show. In total, there are 5 versions of the tape, all with various watermarks such as random volume spikes and intentional speed changes and quality degradations. From this same release came the second show in London, which until then had not circulated at all. This is where the fast version of We Will Rock You from the badly downgraded leak came out. However, sadly, several songs were found to be missing, having been recorded but then physically cut from the tape and discarded as a watermark. The missing songs include Bohemian Rhapsody, Keep Yourself Alive, and Tie Your Mother Down. What sucks about all of this is these 3 shows see the very first time that Freddie attempts to sing a verse in Bohemian Rhapsody with album phrasing, something he does flat for the first show but succeeds in doing for the third show. Odds are he also did it on the second night, but until we get another recording or another version of the same tape with a song on it, we will never know for sure. This is perhaps one of the most sought after Queen demos. What we know is that it's an outtake from Innuendo. In some sources it suggests it's either an early version of or very similar to the title track of Innuendo. This may explain why it wasn't used in Made in Heaven. Very little else is known about the track. There exist several fake demos made by people on YouTube. The real demo has never been heard by the public. This refers to a demo of Play the Game featuring Andy Gibb, a British musician who was a younger brother of the 3 Bee Gees. It's known that he sang the first verse of the song, and that Freddie was apparently impressed with his abilities. The producer of the album, Reinhold Mack, who was mentioned in the lyrics of Dragon Attack, also confirmed the existence of the demo. However, it has never been heard by the public in any form. Alright, we're only 2 tiers from the end. This is the 6th tier. During the North American leg of the Unite the Opera tour, the band did 4 shows at the Beacon Theater in New York City. At the end of the final show on February 8th, 1976, 2 fangirls nearly strangled him after the show while fighting over a scarf around his neck, leaving him with a few bruises. Freddie would reveal this in an interview soon after the shows. This entry most likely refers to the cancelled UK shows on the Hot Space Tour in 1982. The band would ultimately do a show in Leeds, 2 shows in Edinburgh, which would be their final shows in Scotland with Freddie and John, and 1 show in London at the Milton Keynes Bowl. However, at least 1 more show is planned, and the Leeds show was originally going to be in Manchester at the famous Old Trafford Soccer Stadium. However, due to complaints from residents, it got moved to Ellen Road Stadium in Leeds. Additionally, the show at Milton Keynes was going to be at Arsenal Stadium in London, but again, residents prevented it from happening. An early tour itinerary listed 2 shows, one on the 5th when the Milton Keynes shows would take place, and one on the 4th that never happened. It's possible that this unused date would have been the day that Queen performed at the famous Royal Albert Hall. Though a smaller venue, the band wanted to play it due to its social status amongst music fans in the UK. Sadly, the plan was never orchestrated, as there was fears that the weight of Queen's lighting rig damaged the ceiling of the historic concert venue. Thankfully, this was not a serious threat. Jim Jenkins was a super fan of Queen and part of the royal family for many years and saw the band numerous times. He also taped several shows, such as Liverpool 77 and Liverpool 79. He He was acquainted with the band after a while and met them personally several times. Before the Crazy Tour began, Jim jokingly told the band that if they did not play the song Liar on the tour, something bad would happen to them. As a result, after a year-long absence from the band's set list, Liar would be introduced, being played on several nights on the tour, usually on the second night at a venue. These 1979 performances would be the last performances of Liar until 1982, when it was resurrected for part of the Hot Space Tour in Europe. In January of 1982, Freddie performed with the band Taxi at a small pub in Cricklewood, UK. He sang Jailhouse Rock with them, and the performance was apparently caught on video. However, only screenshots of the video, as well as a small snippet released by a tape hoarder known as CK, have surfaced to this day. This would be the last known performance of Jailhouse Rock by Freddie until the Works Tour began in August of 1984. The only concert Queen would ever do in New Zealand is infamous among fans due to Freddie's antics on stage. After soundcheck, Freddie Mercury got very drunk with Tony Hadley of Spandau Ballet, sharing entire bottles of vodka and vintage port. Tony was around only because his own band's New Zealand tour dates had been suddenly cancelled while playing in Australia. Later in the evening, he would ignore his manager's warnings to keep a low profile. As the show was about to begin, stagehands accidentally put Freddie's pants on backwards, causing him to almost be late and only making it on time with seconds to spare. On stage, Freddie was a mess. According to Brian and Roger, he forgot what song he was playing as he was about to start Somebody to Love, and for the first half hour, Freddie was ad-libbing and singing horribly due to his intoxicated state. He reportedly yelled to the audience after doing a vocal improv that his voice was fucked, and proclaimed to Tony, who was standing on the side of the stage, that he was pissed off about it. He also introduced Hammer to Fall as one for all you heavy metal fans to have a good jerk-off to. To top it off, Tony came on stage for Jailhouse Rock despite knowing none of the lyrics and sang Tutti Frutti instead, which would be performed by Queen a year later in 1986. Sadly, no recordings of this absolutely incredible show are confirmed to exist. A video of this show reportedly exists in the archives of a local TV station, but nothing's ever come of the rumors. This entry refers to several shows in London Queen did on the Crazy Tour. For this tour, the band went back to smaller venues in the UK for the last time, and this run of London shows saw them do the smallest venues in their career since their early days. On this particular night, the band performed in the Tottenham Mayfair, a small nightclub with a capacity in the hundreds. There was zero chance of the lighting rig fitting in, so they opted for a few small lights around Roger's drum kit. Fans would recall how bizarre it was seeing a band as big as Queen was by then performing at such a small venue, and according to one who saw Queen many more times before and after, Freddie was incredibly chatty with the audience due to the informal atmosphere. Sadly, no known recording currently circulates. This refers to an early version of the song Delilah from Innuendo. As with all the songs in the album, this song was recorded with the backdrop of Freddie's worsening health due to AIDS, and Delilah was written by Freddie as a way of saying goodbye to his beloved cast before he died. An early demo of the song features the line mentioned in the title for this entry. However, it was changed to "You Make Me Happy When I'm About to Cry" due to how dark the original lyric was. This demo, unlike several others mentioned earlier, can be found on the internet.
You make me smile when I'm just about to cry.
Oh god. Here we are, folks. The last tier. The final frontier. That pun was entirely intended, by the way. The very bottom of the Queen Iceberg. The Eric Mercury tier. Alright, right off the bat, before things get truly terrible, we have this meme from the Queen bootlegs and live performances community. This stems from a very bad mistake a journalist made in the Windsor Star after 2 shows across the border in Detroit on the North American leg of the Jazz Tour in 1978. The journalist not only used an older picture of Freddie with longer hair, but also mistakenly called him Eric Mercury, thus spawning the meme. The same reviewer also claimed that Stone Cold Crazy was performed the second night, even though there is no evidence of the song being performed at all on the Jazz Tour or anywhere else, having been dropped after the News of the World Tour before being resurrected for part of the Works Tour in 1984. Queen has performed in Ireland several times, both with its original lineup and with Adam Lambert. Normally, everywhere else, Queen has ended its concerts with God Save the Queen ever since the Sheer Heart Attack Tour in 1974. In Ireland, however, until 2018, they either did not play anything at the end or they used the overture from A Day at the Races to end their shows due to the strong anti-British sentiment in the country. In 1984, this escalated to the point that the Irish Republican Army issued a bomb threat to Queen, telling them that if they played God Save the Queen at the end of their 2 Dublin shows on the Works Tour, they would detonate a bomb at the venue, RDS Simmons Court. Consequently, they did not play the song, instead using the Races overture as they had in 1979 during their first visit to Ireland on the Crazy Tour. They would use this again when playing with Adam Lambert in the country initially as well. However, starting in 2018, Queen began playing God Save the Queen in Ireland due to the end of the Troubles some time ago, and the subsequent decrease in anti-British sentiment in the country. Remember that other weird event at Knebworth I mentioned earlier? Well, here it is. So partway through the show, a fan who climbed on top of the lighting rig fell to the ground, striking another fan. This fan, enraged by being hit by this careless concertgoer, stabbed him several times with a knife before being restrained and subsequently arrested. Sadly, the fan who was stabbed died of his injuries. Freddie would tell a newspaper soon after the show that if fans are going to die at their shows, he would never perform live again. A chilling premonition of what would happen due to his eventual AIDS diagnosis, and a sign that Freddie had already realized something was very wrong with his health. Some speculate he began to realize he was ill sometime shortly after Live Aid, and he knew the Magic Tour would be his final tour with Queen. In 1984, Queen did a series of controversial shows in Sun City, a resort which was part of the nominally independent country of BOWIE, Botswana, but internationally recognized as being part of South Africa. Queen received backlash for going against a boycott of South Africa and the 3 unrecognized Bantustans inside it due to apartheid, but went ahead of them anyway. Several shows had to be cancelled after one night ended just 4 shows in due to Freddie's voice being lost. A fan reportedly saw Freddie even coughing and spitting up blood during either this show or an earlier show, a sign that he may have possibly ruptured a vocal nodule, which would explain his vocal difficulties. Strangely, the only show we have circulating of the Sun City shows, one of the last in the run, is regarded as one of Freddie's best shows on the Works tour, indicating a strong vocal recovery from this rather low point. It's notable for being the only known time that Freddie correctly sang the second verse of Bohemian Rhapsody with album phrasing. Well, this is going to be a long one. Strap in, folks, because this is the story of Queen's disastrous trip to Mexico in 1981, and why they've never gone back since. So the band was going to do at least 8 shows in Mexico for the game tour in October of 1981, but they ran into issues as soon as they got to the border. The band had to bribe border guards to get all their road crew into the country at once. Once they got there, they got settled into Monterrey, where they were to do 2 shows. The first show went off without a hitch, but behind the scenes, things were not doing too well. The shows were badly organized and the band were not treated well. Additionally, the road crew dinner was allegedly from a KFC, but they soon realized it wasn't chicken, but in fact fried kittens and rats, causing most of them to get sick from food poisoning. The next night in Monterrey, as well as 3 shows in Guadalajara, were cancelled. However, this would not be the end of their troubles. Hell, this isn't even the worst part of the tour. That would happen next in Puebla. The band had plans to do at least 2 shows in Mexico City, but upon their arrival, they were told at the last minute they got redirected to a stadium in nearby Puebla, infuriating Freddie. To make matters worse, the stadium they were redirected to was dilapidated and badly maintained. When the gates were opened, everyone entering the venue was searched thoroughly, and all batteries were confiscated to prevent bootlegging. However, the same security guards and police officers that Queen hired for security ended up reselling those same batteries back to fans at an incredibly high markup. Fans eventually overwhelmed security, and many were allowed to pass through without examination. Either security had a few buyers, or they slipped through once security gave up, because at least 3 different audience recordings exist of the first show in Puebla. Once again, many of those in the road crew got sick from food poisoning. Backstage, there was only one bathroom for the band and the road crew to share, and on stage, things quickly descended into chaos. Many in the audience were drunk and belligerent, with most having never attended a proper rock concert before, as Queen were among the first large international rock bands to visit Mexico. Fans who thought Queen were pocketing money from the sale of confiscated items by police and security began throwing objects at the band, including plenty of shoes. At one point, the stands collapsed in part of the stadium, injuring many concert goers. A flying boot hit John in the head, almost knocking him out. A bag of dirt hit Brian during Bohemian Rhapsody's solo. And another hit him during the ending of the rock section. The band decided to drop Fat Bottom Girls and Sheer Heart Attack. It's speculated that the band was also going to play Rocket and then previously unheard Under Pressure at this show as well, as an audio tape of the rehearsals showed the band performing both songs, but of course, the audience prevented them from doing so. Now the real fun was when the concert ended. Only a single small exit was open for fans, and many were crammed in and trying to leave at 3 in the morning. Security and police decided the best option was to beat up everyone trying to leave, and a riot quickly broke out. While everyone was fighting outside, the band was locked in a small room below the stage, frightening the claustrophobic John Deacon. There, the band was forced, possibly at gunpoint, to sign a legal document ensuring that the second show in Puebla would happen to prevent riots in the city. Thankfully, the second night went off without a hitch due to a stronger and better police presence. John even wore a Dallas Cowboys football helmet to avoid projectiles, but thankfully none were thrown, at least at him. Even so, these harrowing shows in Mexico would ensure that the Queen would never return in any form, and neither would Brian or Roger on the solo tours or with the Cross. Additionally, rock concerts were outright banned in Puebla until 1991 after the incidents on the first night. And well, that's the entire iceberg. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did, and I thank you all for watching to the end. Now, I'm going to commit myself to a mental hospital for 72 hours, pending a psychiatric evaluation, because I'm pretty sure I need therapy after reading the end of that iceberg. Jesus Christ.